Emperor. For the Empire.
Chapter I. The Iron Sky Greater Than From the Void. Krieg is a wound upon the stars. A planet choked by ash and iron. Its surface hidden beneath an eternal pall of smoke. Its sunlight filtered through centuries of industrial haze. From orbit, it appears as a colossal machine, vast and unfeeling. Its spires clawing at the heavens. Its forges burning like veins of molten blood. There is no motion here that is not dictated by labor, no life unbound by the dictates of duty. And yet, humanity endures. They endure. Because endurance is all that has ever been offered. The clouds are thick with the residue of endless manufactorums. Each plume of smoke carries with it the weight of billions of lives workers, conscripts, children whose lungs have never known air untainted by soot. The surface is a tapestry of industry. Sprawling the skeletal remains of older hives, now buried beneath newer layers, and spires that pierce the clouds like the jagged teeth of some gargantuan, unseen predator. Even from orbit, the hum of Krieg can almost be heard a low, constant vibration that seems to pulse through the void itself, a heartbeat of iron and despair. Orbiting further, one observes the rivers of machinery snaking across the land. Belts and conveyors carrying raw materials into furnaces that never cease. Smokestacks rise like monuments to the Emperor's relentless demand for war, casting long shadows over the hive cities. Each spire is a microcosm of suffering, layered with the lives of those born, who toil, and who die beneath the unfeeling gaze of the iron sky. The light from Krieg's sun struggles to penetrate the haze, casting the world in an eternal twilight. A pallid mimicry of day, where shadow is law and flame is truth. And yet, there is movement. Tiny figures dot the hive spires, workers in soot-stained uniforms. Squads of conscripts marching in rigid formations, servitors trudging under loads too great for any living man to bear. Even from this height, one can sense the rhythm of Krieg, a symphony of effort and despair, conducted by invisible hands. Each note a life spent, each crescendo a death accepted. The world is alive, and yet it is not. It breathes with the exhaust of a billion factories, and yet its inhabitants are as replaceable as the cogs that turn within the manufactorums below. Orbit offers clarity, and yet it offers lies. To see Krieg from above is to witness the grandeur of its machinery, the scale of its devotion to war, the precision of its obedience, but it does not reveal the cost. The hollow eyes of children conscripted before they could speak, the racked backs of laborers, the silent prayers whispered by those who still dare to hope beneath the iron sky. Krieg's majesty is the majesty of suffering made monumental, a testament to the Emperor's will, and to the unending necessity of war. Even the storms obey the planet. Acid rain falls irregularly, corroding the upper spires and streaking the streets with the sheen of chemical blood. Lightning arcs through ash clouds, illuminating the factories and casting grotesque shadows across the streets, where the tiny figures move like ants within the maw of a great, unseen predator. The world below is a kaleidoscope of horror and labor, a theater in which the tragedy of humanity is performed every day, every hour, under the indifferent gaze of the iron sky. Yet, in this industrial nightmare, there is purpose. The citizens of Krieg are not idle. They march, they work, they die, and they repeat the cycle, generation after generation. Their lives are measured in the rhythm of production and the cadence of orders. Each step, each stroke of labor, is a prayer to the Emperor, a hymn sung not in song but in endurance. From orbit, one might mistake it for harmony. But this is harmony born of suffering. discipline carved from the flesh and spirit of billions. And as the planet rotates beneath the Watcher in orbit, the enormity of its scale becomes undeniable. Entire armies are raised without fanfare. Manufactorums produce munitions without pause. Hives expand ever upward, stacking life upon life, like tombs reaching for the stars. The human heart is both fragile and unyielding, and on Krieg, it beats in synchrony with engines of steel, each pulse a defiance, each breath a testament to survival under the iron sky. But this view from the heavens was only the beginning. To truly understand Krieg, one must descend into its spires, walk its streets, and witness the lives forged in fire and ash, a world where every child is born for the front, and every step is measured in duty and despair. Greater than to descend from orbit is to be swallowed by the enormity of Krieg. The hive spires stretch like jagged fingers into the smoke-choked heavens, each a testament to the ingenuity and suffering of countless generations. Streets are stacked upon streets, platforms layered like the pages of a book written in iron and ash. The further one falls through the haze, the more the world's scale becomes incomprehensibly an endless maze of bridges, walkways, and catwalks, each carrying the weight of billions who live, labor, and die without pause. The spires themselves are monuments of contradiction, magnificent in architecture yet monstrous in purpose. Facades bristle with antennae, observation decks, and machinery that hums with unending power. Massive banners hang tattered and soot-stained, bearing the sigils of the Emperor, reminders of devotion carved into the very steel. Between these towering constructs, the streets below are narrow and suffocating, jammed with the movement of workers, servitors, and conscripts. Smoke and steam curl from vents, mingling with the acrid fog of chemical runoff. Here, sunlight is myth, and shadow is law. At the ground level, life is both visible and invisible. Children march under the watchful gaze of instructors, their small hands clutching rifles meant for older, hardened soldiers. Laborers trudge through mud-choked streets, their faces blackened by soot, the creases of fatigue etched deep into their flesh. Servitors, men and women transformed into half-machine, stripped of thought and emotion, shuffle mechanically, their movements precise, their purpose unerring. Every step, every breath, is dictated by the machinery of war, and all around, the spires rise like tombstones, marking lives lived in perpetual service. Greater than the higher one climbs, the more the hive reveals its grandeur and its horror. Walkways span the gaps between buildings, forming precarious bridges that seem as likely to collapse as to support the endless flow of workers. Factories perch like gargantuan nests atop the spires, belching smoke into the perpetual twilight. The roar of machinery rises in a chorus of iron and fire, drowning out the cries of the living below. Even the birds, if any survived, are blackened and silent, their wings coated in industrial soot. Here, beauty is forged from utility, and utility is measured in human suffering. Greater than yet, Krieg is not merely a machine, it is a society. Rigid and absolute, its rules encoded in hierarchy and tradition. At every level, there is a functionary, a master of men, a sergeant who measures loyalty in steps and obedience in hours. Orders are absolute. Hesitation is death. And beneath the iron discipline, whispers of fear circulate, tales of the underhive, of shadowed streets, and forgotten chambers where heresy fell. These are the veins of the hive, hidden and pulsating, carrying corruption where sunlight never reaches. Greater than, as the night door, what passes for night on Krieg descends. The spires glow with artificial light. Molten furnaces cast an orange glare, and torches of flame line the catwalks where guards patrol with grim faces and tighter discipline. Shadows writhe unnaturally against the walls, thrown by the flickering flames and the smoke that climbs endlessly toward the heavens. The atmosphere is thick with tension. Every footfall echoes against steel. Every shout carries across stacked streets. Humanity's resilience is displayed not in comfort or joy, but in survival and endless dance between labor and death. The hive spires are alive in ways the eye cannot fully comprehend. They breathe with exhaust, pulse with the rhythm of conveyor belts, and quiver under the thrum of manufactorums. And through it all, the people of Krieg march forwards, silent, eternal. Each layer of the spires is a story, each bridge a testament to endurance, each shadow a reminder of what is lost beneath the iron sky. Here, the sky is never free. It is a cage, a ceiling of smoke, iron, and expectation, pressing down upon those who walk beneath it. But to truly grasp the scale of Krieg's labor, one must follow the pulse of its machines, listen to the constant roar, and feel the weight of unending work, the lifeblood that keeps the planet alive, yet grinds its children into dust. What follows is the story of the manufactorums, the engines of war that never sleep. Greater than the heartbeat of Krieg is not human. It is steel, it is fire, it is the ceaseless clatter of machinery that stretches from horizon to horizon. Manufactorums belch smoke and flame, their forges glowing with molten fury, their conveyor belts transporting components of war faster than the mind can follow. The air vibrates with the rhythm of pistons and gears, and those who live here have learned to move with its pulse, marching to the cadence of engines that never rest. Within the manufactorums, men and women toil like cogs themselves. They are conditioned from birth to endure, to obey, to perform without hesitation. Each movement is precise, each action measured. Sparks fly from welding torches, illuminating faces etched with soot and fatigue. The deafening roar of furnaces drowns out thought, drowning out pain. A single misstep could cost a limb or a life, yet the workers continue. Heads bowed, bodies bending, hands blistered and blackened. And above them, overseers in ceramite armor patrol with an unyielding gaze, ensuring that every gear turns, every blade is sharpened, every gun barrel polished and ready. Asterisk greater than steam vents hiss and shriek, echoing through cavernous halls lined with iron and brick, the smell of molten metal and scorched flesh. Accidents that are inevitable in this infernal factory mix with the acrid tang of coal smoke. Everywhere, the eye is assaulted, moving platforms, rotating drills, sparks dancing in the gloom, and the occasional flicker of warning lights signaling danger to those who are alert enough to notice. The sheer scale of the operation is staggering. It is a planet's worth of machinery designed to feed the Imperium's endless appetite for war. Asterisk greater than, but Krieg is not merely a place of labor, it is a crucible. Here, men are forged as surely as the weapons they produce. Young conscripts are assigned to assembly lines that stretch for miles, their small hands guided by instructors whose patience has long since been consumed by the hum of engines. Each soldier learns that hesitation is weakness, weakness invites death, and death is the currency of survival. The manufactorums do not merely produce weapons, they produce warriors, souls tempered by labor and pain, minds conditioned to endure the horrors that await in the trenches beyond. Asterisk greater than, and yet, despite the mechanical perfection, the world beneath the iron sky is fragile. Overwork, injury, and despair are constant companions. A single misaligned gear or fallen beam can cascade into catastrophe, claiming dozens of lives in a heartbeat. Yet the rhythm continues, unbroken, unfeeling, eternal. Even as men crumble to exhaustion, the machines keep moving, consuming the sweat, blood, and flesh of the workers as fuel for the war effort. There is no pause. There is no mercy, only the ceaseless pulse of industry and the relentless march of those who are bound to it. Asterisk at night, the manufactorums do not sleep. Lights blaze along catwalks, casting long shadows that twist and writhe across walls of soot-streaked brick. Servitors move mechanically through the chaos, welding, hauling, assembling. The roar of engines is a lullaby to some, a nightmare to others, yet all are bound to its rhythm. The pulse of Krieg is a symphony of labor and suffering, a testament to human endurance and imperial will. Every spark, every clang of metal, every hiss of steam is a reminder, on Krieg, the machines never sleep, and neither may its people. But men cannot live on steel and fire alone. Even in this infernal rhythm, faith finds a place. In the midst of unending labor and suffering, the soldiers of Krieg clutch to their devotion, their armor of spirit against the ever-pressing weight of death. What follows is a journey into the hearts and souls of those who serve the Emperor without question. Chapter 2. Born for the Front. Greater than life on Krieg begins not with choice, but with duty. Children are ushered from cradle to conscription, their minds shaped by fear, discipline, and devotion. The streets of hive cities offer no playgrounds, no laughter to echo through smoke-choked errandly drills, marching orders, and lessons etched into flesh and spirit. Even before they can walk with confidence, they are taught the cost of hesitation, the virtue of obedience, the sacredness of sacrifice. Greater than. Young recruits awaken to the constant hum of manufactorums and the distant thunder of artillery, learning that the world is a forge, and they are its iron. Their training grounds are ash-strewn plains and mud-choked ditches, where instructors wield not patience but authority, and where failure is measured in bruises, blood, and broken pride. Each lesson, each forced march, each rifle lifted is a small crucible, shaping flesh into armor and mind into unyielding resolve. The concept of childhood is foreign. Innocence is stripped away under the iron gaze of Krieg's overseers. Greater than within these camps, hierarchy is law. The strong rise quickly, the weak vanish quietly. Comradeship is a matter of survival, a bond tempered not in laughter, but in shared suffering and the knowledge that each man's life may end for the sake of duty. Instructors teach not only combat, but endurance, stoicism, and the unshakable belief that the Emperor watches all. Even at this tender age, fear is constant, a shadow that trains them to obey instinctively, to react without hesitation, to give all for the Imperium. Greater than, and yet, amid the rigor and relentless discipline, sparks of individuality flicker. A glance shared between friends, a whispered prayer before drills, a moment of quiet defiance against exhaustion or cruelty. These are the fragile threads of humanity that persist, even as they are worn thin. Krieg does not destroy the soul entirely. It tempers it, compresses it, molds it into something that can endure the inferno of the front lines without faltering. Greater than their education is brutal, but necessary. They learn to read the terrain, to anticipate artillery strikes, to navigate the mud, gas, and wire of battlefields before they have ever fired a shot in anger. Every night, they fall asleep to the distant echo of bombardments and the ever-present hum of manufactorums. Dreams are rare, and when they come, they are haunted by visions of comrades lost, the screams of the dying, and the shadowed streets of their city. Yet from these dreams, the recruits awaken stronger, more determined, ready to embrace the life for which they were born. As adolescence gives way to adulthood, the conscripts march from the training grounds to the barracks, their bodies scarred and disciplined, their minds trained in the art of survival and obedience. Here, the first taste of real responsibility arrives, not as choice, but as inevitability. They are no longer children. They are soldiers, forged in the crucible of Krieg, bound to the front, their existence measured in service to the Emperor. Each step they take toward deployment is a step away from who they were, and toward what they are destined to become: stoic, obedient, and unyielding. Greater than even in the moments between drills and inspection, the specter of war lingers. News from distant fronts arrives in fragments, reports of siege, of slaughter, of entire regiments swallowed by enemy fire. These stories are not distant. They are lessons, reminders that failure is fatal, that hesitation invites death, and that only through unwavering duty can one hope to survive. The young soldiers internalize these lessons as truths. The Emperor demands sacrifice, and Krieg answers without question. Greater than by the time they are issued their first rifles, by the time they step beyond the gates of the training camps, they have already learned the most vital lesson. Life on Krieg is not live, it is endured. Each heartbeat, each breath, each step is a testament to obedience and endurance. Childhood is a memory that fades like smoke into the iron sky, leaving only the hardened resolve of a soldier, prepared to face the trenches, the gas, the mud, and the endless artillery barrages that define Krieg's brutal reality. Greater than, and so. The soldiers march onward, leaving behind the innocence of youth for the grim embrace of the front lines. What follows is the tale of their first exposure to the trenches of despair, where courage is measured in endurance, and death waits patiently for those who falter. Chapter 3. Trenches of Despair. Greater than war is a living entity on Krieg. It seeps into every crevice of the hive cities, gnaws at the iron streets, and stretches outward into the scarred plains that serve as training grounds and battlefields alike. Yet nothing truly prepares the conscripts for the front lines, the trenches, that stretch across the horizon like the fingers of a dying god, clawing at the earth, claiming blood and mud in equal measure. Here, the soldiers of the Death Corps first encounter the raw face of war, unyielding, indifferent, and eternally hungry. Greater than the trenches are a world unto themselves. They are carved from mud and reinforced with sandbags, timber, and scavenged metal. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth, rotting rations, and the unmistakable temps of blood. Shellfire lands constantly, a rhythmic thunder that shakes the walls and rattles the bones of those who have grown to dread every heartbeat. Smoke curls upward from burning debris, choking the lungs and staining vision with gray and red. Every step is a negotiation with death. Every glance may reveal the twisted visage of a comrade felled in seconds. In this realm of despair, courage is measured not by heroism, but by endurance. The soldiers of the Death Corps advance and retreat with mechanical precision, their movements choreographed by experience and fear alike. Every man knows the cost of hesitation. Every man knows the penalty of questioning orders. Yet within these brutal routines, small moments of humanity endure: a shared flask of water, a whispered prayer, a hand on a shoulder as artillery shakes the ground and screams rise from the mud. These fleeting gestures are the thin threads that tether the soul to survival, the only warmth in a landscape dominated by fire and ruin. Greater than nights bring no reprieve. Trenches flood with rain, turning tunnels into rivers of mud and despair. The distant explosions continue, and in the darkness, unseen horrors prowl. Rats as large as dogs gnaw at bodies left too long in the open. The whispers of the insane rise, echoes of fear and fatigue that drive men to clutch their lasguns like talismans. The cold seeps into every bone, and even the strongest must remind themselves that endurance is a choice and surrender is death. Here, the Death Corps learn the discipline that has defined their people for generations. That life is a commodity measured against the needs of the Emperor, and only through stoicism and obedience can one survive the inferno of war. Greater than. Artillery fire is the heartbeat of the battlefield. It never falters. Each barrage reshapes the landscape, creating craters that swallow men and machines alike. The ground trembles under the boots of tanks and the roar of engines, blending with the screams of the wounded to form a chorus of terror. The soldiers move through this chaos with grim efficiency, covering one another's flanks, dragging the injured to safety, or delivering suppressive fire, as if guided by some unseen hand. Death is constant, yet they march onward, never faltering, never questioning. driven by the memory of their training and the unyielding weight of duty. Asterisk greater than disease is as much an enemy as the forces across the lines. Trench fever, dysentery, and infection claim their toll, gnawing quietly at flesh, weakened by exhaustion, malnutrition, and relentless stress. Medical supplies are scarce, rationed with clinical precision, and the medics themselves are overworked, their faces pale beneath soot-streaked helmets. Many succumb, not to enemy fire, but to the slow decay of the body under the constant pressure of the front. Yet still, they rise each day to face another round of mud, blood, and lead. Each step is a testament to the unbroken will of the Death Corps. Asterisk greater than the psychological toll is unrelenting. Men speak little of fear, for words are unnecessary in the trenches. It manifests instead in the twitch of an eye, the tremor of a hand, the way a soldier flinches at the sound of falling dirt. Letters from home are rare. News from the hive cities even rarer. Memories of childhood fade, replaced by the endless calculus of survival. Advance, retreat, fire, reload, dig, hold. They learn to suppress the faint stirrings of doubt, guilt, or grief, burying themselves beneath layers of stoicism and ritual, finding in obedience a shield against the chaos that surrounds them. Asterisk greater than command is absolute. Officers, often scarred veterans, move through the trenches like phantoms, directing fire, pacing lines, and delivering orders with a voice honed in the crucible of experience. Disobedience is not tolerated. Hesitation is fatal. Yet the men respect those who endure, who lead by example, and who share in the suffering of the line. Loyalty is measured not in words, but in the willingness to step into the mud and blood alongside comrades, knowing that death may come swiftly, yet will not come for lack of courage. Asterisk shells detonate with violent regularity, and each impact reshapes the battlefield. The ground heaves, swallowing trenches whole and leaving men exposed to machine gun fire. Smoke hangs in heavy curtains, turning day into a gray twilight, masking friend and foe alike. In these conditions, the Death Corps move as one organism, small units, synchronized by discipline, training, and necessity. They do not flinch. They do not hesitate. Even when comrades fall, even when the mud becomes a quagmire of corpses and weaponry, they advance, they hold, they endure. Asterisk greater than, and yet, there is a strange beauty within this horror. The precision of fire and movement, the discipline that binds men together, the rituals of cleaning rifles and tending wounds under the shadow of constant threat. These small acts are sacred. In the mud and smoke, life persists, a fragile and defiant spark in the heart of darkness. The Death Corps are more than soldiers. They are a living testament to humanity's capacity for endurance, for loyalty, for courage in the face of annihilation. Asterisk greater than as the days stretch into weeks, the lines blur. Hunger, thirst, exhaustion, and the omnipresent stench of death fuse into a singular, unrelenting reality. Time loses meaning. Men exist only for the next order, the next barrage, the next round of firing. Yet within this crucible, identity is forged anew. The weak fall silently, the strong endure, and the survivors emerge as unbroken instruments of the Emperor's will. Asterisk greater than. The trenches are not merely a battlefield, they are a mirror of Krieg itself, relentless, unyielding, unforgiving. They teach the soldier that life is secondary to duty, that fear is an enemy to be mastered, and that only through endurance can one find purpose amid chaos. Each man who survives carries scars visible and invisible, a testament to the horror he has witnessed, and the discipline he has embraced. Asterisk greater than, and still, the artillery never ceases. Each explosion, each scream, each falling body is a rhythm in the symphony of war. The soldiers of the Death Corps march to this rhythm, unyielding, unbroken, unending. For them, there is no end, no pause, only the trenches, and the life defined by the relentless presence of death. Asterisk Greater than yet, the horror is not confined to combat alone. Beyond the trenches, Krieg itself conspires to test body and mind, the gas-choked plains, the mud-choked ravines, and the infernal machinery of industry. What follows is the story of gas, mud, and iron, the elemental forces that define the very existence of those bound to the Emperor's will. Chapter 4. Gas, Mud, and Iron. Krieg is not a world that forgives weakness. The very air conspires against the living, thick with smoke, soot, and chemical miasma that drifts like a pall over the endless battlefields. Breathing is labor. Every inhalation draws in ash, grit, and poison. Yet even this is but one layer of the relentless assault upon the soldiers of the Death Corps. The mud beneath their boots is a living trap, sucking at flesh and gear alike, hiding corpses, fragments of shattered weapons, and the remnants of those who fell before. It is a battlefield shaped by both man and machine, where survival demands endurance beyond the human limit. Greater than the mud is more than obstacle. It is a test. It drags at boots, rips armor from shoulders, and fills every crevice of equipment. Trenches flood into quagmires, forcing soldiers to wade through water mixed with the blood and decay of comrades. Boots stick, rifles sink, hands tremble with effort. Yet, there is a rhythm to the struggle, a cadence that the soldiers learn to follow, each step measured, each breath calculated. Life on Krieg is measured in minutes, in the distance one can travel before the next explosion, or the next poison cloud overtakes them. And the gas omnipresent, invisible, merciless. Chemical warfare is a constant companion, a silent executioner that seeps through cracks, past respirators, and into the lungs of even the most disciplined soldier. The Death Corps march with masks sealed, filters choking, eyes stinging, yet they advance, dig, and fire, as if the air itself were nothing more than another obstacle to overcome. The gas transforms fear into focus, pain into obedience. It is a teacher of endurance, a cruel mentor that whispers the lesson that life is not meant to be gentle, only endured. Greater than iron dominates the world. Manufactorums rise like fortresses, spitting fire and smoke into the gray sky, while gears and conveyors endlessly churn beneath the feet of the living. Engines roar, their vibrations shaking the ground, echoing through the trenches and ravines. Every structure hums with purpose, the creation of weapons, the refinement of munitions, the eternal feeding of war. Soldiers of the Death Corps move through this mechanical symphony, their movements synchronized with the rhythm of industry, their existence entwined with the ceaseless hunger of the hive. Steel and smoke are the very fabric of their lives, as familiar and unforgiving as the mud and gas that define the battlefield. Greater than each day begins in ritualized endurance. Soldiers check masks, scrub mud from armor, load rifles with mechanical precision, and step into the quagmire that awaits. Orders are shouted over the roar of engines and the hiss of chemical clouds, gestures marked by urgency and necessity. The weak falter, the disciplined persevere. Even the bravest of men know that survival depends not on heroics, but on the mastery of labor, the subjugation of fear, and the unwavering adherence to command. Greater than battlefields are painted with the palette of destruction, mud deep red with blood, blackened soil steaming with heat, and iron debris scattered like bones from some forgotten leviathan. The horizon is a jagged line of broken machinery, collapsed manufactorums, and craters that swallow men and machines alike. Shells rain down incessantly, their concussive blasts a constant reminder that the world does not pause for grief or reflection. And yet, amid the ruin, life persists, not triumphant, but stubborn, grim, unyielding. Greater than the soldiers of the Death Corps adapt to the unrelenting environment. Rations are consumed quickly, often under the shadow of fire and debris. Water, scarce and muddied, is rationed carefully, washed and filtered as best as possible. Every breath taken through a respirator is a calculated risk. Every step in the mud and negotiation with death. Their bodies are sculpted by necessity, muscles taut with strain, lungs burning with effort, minds sharpened by the constant threat of annihilation. They are soldiers born of extremity, hardened beyond ordinary comprehension. Their endurance, a testament to human will, under the hammer of perpetual war. Asterisk greater than fatigue becomes a companion, an oppressive weight that settles upon every limb and thought. Sleep is a luxury rarely afforded, taken in fragments between bombardments, stolen beneath the shadows of collapsing trenches, or under the watchful eyes of comrades. Dreams are haunted by the stench of gas and mud, by the echoes of artillery and the screaming of the wounded. Yet still, the Death Corps rise each day to face the elements, to master the mud, endure the gas, and move in harmony with the iron and smoke of their world. Asterisk discipline is absolute. Soldiers are drilled in movements designed to conserve strength, to maintain efficiency, even under extreme conditions. Comrades rely upon one another for survival. Trust is not a sentiment, but a necessity. A man left behind is not merely a casualty, but a liability to the unit. Every action, every motion, every breath is coordinated, measured, executed with precision, honed through training, and hardened by experience. In the mud, beneath the smoke, amid the roar of engines and the hiss of poison, the Death Corps exist as one living organism, a machine, forged of flesh and steel, obedience, and will. Asterisk greater than even amidst horror. There are moments of solemn beauty. The sunrise through clouds of smoke casts a reddish-golden glow upon mud-choked trenches, turning pools of water into mirrors reflecting the resolve etched upon every face. The grinding of engines forms a symphony of war, its rhythm mirrored in the synchronized movements of soldiers advancing, digging, firing. Rituals of hygiene, maintenance, and prayer punctuate the day, small acts of defiance and preservation that allow humanity to persist in a world dominated by death and machinery. Asterisk greater than yet. Krieg remains indifferent. Fire, mud, and iron are not teachers. They are tests. Each day claims the weak, scars the brave, and shapes the survivors into instruments of the Emperor's will. The environment itself conspires to strip away fear, doubt, and hesitation, leaving only endurance and obedience. Soldiers emerge from these trials unbroken, but irrevocably changed, their bodies and minds molded by suffering, their spirits intertwined with the elemental forces that dominate the planet. Asterisk greater than the lessons of gas, mud, and iron are seared into memory. They remind the Death Corps that the battlefield is not only where the enemy waits, but where the world itself conspires to destroy all that is fragile and unprepared. Every inhaled poison, every step through mire, every moment beneath the shadow of smoking manufactorums, teaches endurance, focus, and the necessity of duty above self. Here, life is secondary. The Emperor's will is paramount, and the men of Krieg, forged in ash and steel, answer that call without question. Asterisk greater than beyond the mud, beyond the choking smoke, beyond the ceaseless churn of iron and fire. The soldiers turn inward, seeking solace and strength in what little remains sacred. Faith in the Emperor becomes their armor, their shield against despair, their compass through the unending chaos of war. The next chapter tells of that spiritual fortitude, the belief that sustains the Death Corps where flesh, steel, and mud alone cannot. Chapter 5. Faith in the Emperor. Asterisk greater than amid the endless roar of guns, the stench of mud, and the choking smoke of Krieg. A different kind of fire burns within the hearts of the Death Corps. It is a quiet, unyielding flame, tempered in the crucible of despair, and nurtured by unwavering devotion. Faith is not a comfort here. It is a weapon, a shield, a lifeline. Soldiers march into artillery barrages, into gas clouds, into the maw of death itself, guided not by hope of survival, but by the command of the Emperor, and the rituals that consecrate their existence. Asterisk greater than from the earliest moments of conscription. Boys are taught that obedience is sacred and duty is divine. Priests of the ecclesiarchy walk among the recruits, their robes blackened with soot and adorned with symbols of the Imperium, chanting prayers that echo through the corridors of training halls and over the mud-choked parade grounds. The words of the Emperor are etched into the minds of each soldier. He who dies in service is reborn in honor. These mantras become shields against despair, anchors amidst the chaos of war, and chains that bind every man to the inexorable machinery of the battlefield. Asterisk greater than rituals punctuate the daily grind of trench life. Every rifle is blessed, every uniform anointed, every march begun with solemn invocations. The prayers are not idle. They resonate through the air like a counterpoint to the thunder of artillery, forming a rhythm that the soldiers internalize. Faith is performed in the mud, in the blood, and in the unending smoke. It is an act of defiance against a world that seeks to consume them, a declaration that their lives, though expendable, belong to something greater than themselves. Asterisk greater than icons of the Emperor are carried into battle. Small talismans worn beneath armor or sewn into sleeves, and large banners that catch fire and smoke yet never falter. Each represents the watchful gaze of the Imperium, a reminder that even amidst annihilation, there is purpose. The soldiers of the Death Corps clutch these symbols not out of superstition, but because they are necessary. Faith sharpens the mind, fortifies the body, and binds the soul to duty. Without it, the unrelenting horrors of Krieg would crush every man, leaving only despair and ruin. Asterisk greater than in moments between bombardments. The soldiers gather quietly, forming tight circles in craters or beneath the skeletons of destroyed manufactorums. Silent prayers rise in unison, voices trembling yet resolute, seeking guidance, strength, and mercy from an emperor who may never answer, yet whose presence is felt in every disciplined march and every act of unyielding courage. Here, in these fleeting moments of reflection, faith is not abstract. It is tactile, felt in aching muscles, soot-stained skin, and trembling hands, gripping rifles. Asterisk greater than chaplains of the Death Corps play a vital role in sustaining this spiritual resolve. Clad in armor, adorned with purity seals and relics, their presence commands respect and instills courage. They speak of duty, honor, and the Emperor's eternal gaze, moving among the men with a deliberate grace that belies the chaos around them. Their words are not mere speeches. They are lifelines thrown to soldiers teetering on the edge of despair. A whispered benediction can steady a trembling hand, focus a mind fatigued by endless artillery, and transform fear into obedience. Asterisk greater than faith also manifests in the acceptance of sacrifice. Soldiers of the Death Corps do not dream of glory. They dream of fulfillment of duty, of the honor of service, of the knowledge that even if they fall, their death contributes to the Imperium's eternal war. Each life is a cog in a vast machine, and yet each cog is sacred. The act of standing firm under fire, of advancing through gas and mud, is itself a liturgy, a prayer enacted in action. There is no need for applause, for recognition, or even for survival. Faith requires only obedience and endurance. Asterisk greater than superstitions mingle with doctrine in subtle ways. Soldiers touch icons before battle, recite prayers passed down through generations, or whisper to relics of fallen comrades. These acts are not signs of weakness. They are expressions of solidarity, of shared belief, of acknowledgement that the Emperor's light, however distant, guides even the smallest step through the darkness. Faith creates a unity among men that cannot be broken by shellfire, gas, or the unending grind of war. Asterisk greater than the spiritual discipline of Krieg soldiers extends to the care of equipment and comrades alike. Polishing a rifle, cleaning a respirator, tending to a wounded comrade, these acts are elevated to ritualistic significance. Each gesture is performed with reverence, as if honoring the Emperor himself. There is poetry in this devotion, mud-streaked hands performing sacred work, sweat and soot transformed into offerings of obedience. Even the simplest task becomes part of the divine choreography of survival, a testament to the inseparable bond between faith and action. Greater than during prolonged sieges. When days blur into nights under smoke-filled skies, prayer becomes a bulwark against despair. Soldiers murmur, in unison, each syllable a defiance against the chaos that surrounds them. Faith is the lens through which every hardship is interpreted, turning suffering into purpose, fear into determination, and death into service. Without this spiritual armor, the landscape of Krieg mud, gas, iron, and firewood consume every man whole. Greater than. The Emperor's presence is both metaphorical and deeply real to those who serve. In the endless attrition of war, the certainty of his will, the sanctity of his guidance, and the inviolability of duty form a psychological scaffold. It teaches endurance when flesh is failing, courage when artillery crushes earth and bone, and hope not of life preserved, but of purpose fulfilled. Faith becomes a language, a ritual, a rhythm, a heartbeat that synchronizes with the ceaseless drum of Krieg's war. Greater than, and yet, there are moments of doubt, fleeting shadows that pass, even through the most disciplined mind. Death stalks the trenches, and no prayer can halt its approach. Comrades fall in silence, swallowed by mud or fire. The roar of engines and the hiss of gas remind every soldier of fragility. But even in these moments, faith persists. A quiet insistence that duty transcends mortality, that the Emperor's will outlasts any individual life. Doubt is acknowledged, confronted, and subordinated to obedience. It is a test that strengthens rather than weakens. Greater than in essence. Faith on Krieg is survival distilled into devotion. It is the mortar that binds men into units, the rhythm that maintains endurance under impossible conditions, the lens through which the horrors of war are transformed into acts of sacred service. Every march, every advance, every act of courage is both literal and spiritual. Faith is not a comfort. It is a tool, a weapon, a lifeline, a declaration that even in a world consumed by gas, mud, and iron, the soul can still align with purpose. Greater than. It is this faith that allows the death corps to endure. Without it, the mud would claim them, the gas would suffocate them, the artillery would break them, and the endless machinery of war would grind them into dust. With it, they are unstoppable, not invincible, but unflinching, unyielding, eternal in their service. The Emperor does not promise safety, only duty, and the men of Krieg answer, always. Greater than. With spirits fortified and faith unbroken, the death corps march onward, yet each act of devotion exacts its toll. For every prayer whispered, every relic touched, and every ritual performed, there comes a price: the erosion of self, the weight of memory, and the haunting recognition that obedience and survival are not free. The next chapter will reveal the human cost of this relentless discipline, the quiet despair and personal sacrifice etched into every soldier's flesh and soul. Chapter 6. The price of obedience. Greater than. Obedience is a virtue on Krieg, but it is a virtue carved from the body, the mind, and the soul. Each order, each command, is obeyed without hesitation, without question, without expectation of reward. The soldiers of the Death Corps are molded into instruments of war, and instruments demand precision, endurance, and sacrifice. Yet the cost of this perfection is never counted in medals or honor. It is counted in flesh, in memory, and in the quiet erosion of humanity itself. Greater than. From the first day of conscription, boys are separated from family, from warmth, from hope. The training grounds are cold, relentless, and designed to strip away individuality. Names are replaced with numbers. Emotions are discouraged, except as tools for duty. Fear, sorrow, and even joy are subordinated to the will of the Emperor and the command of the commissars, who patrol every barracks and drill field. Obedience is drilled into every muscle, every thought, every heartbeat. Greater than yet obedience carries a deeper, more insidious cost. Every march into a trench, every crawl across mud and wire, every step beneath fire and shrapnel chips away at the self. Soldiers learn to suppress instinct, to silence hesitation, to deny personal needs. Hunger is ignored, exhaustion is ignored, injury is ignored. Comrades fall beside them, screaming, bleeding, pleading, and still the march continues. Survival is secondary to duty. Humanity is secondary to obedience. Greater than artillery fire does not distinguish between compliant and hesitant soldiers. Gas clouds do not pause for the faint of heart. Mud and filth are indiscriminate, but the soldier of Krieg does not falter. The body bends, the mind bends, the spirit is tested, and through it all, obedience is maintained. Yet obedience is not costless. Every act of loyalty exacts a debt, the weight of lost friends, the memory of those who could not endure, the haunting of moments when fear and doubt were buried deep beneath the veneer of discipline. Psychological scars form invisible trenches beside the physical ones. Nightmares are the currency of the obedient. Sleep, when it comes, is shallow and fleeting, invaded by visions of fire, blood, and steel. Memories of fallen comrades haunt the waking hours, whispering accusations, reminders, and sorrow that cannot be expressed. The men of the Death Corps carry these scars silently, for to speak of pain is to question obedience, and to question obedience is forbidden. Greater than each promotion, each commendation, each mark of discipline reinforces the chain that binds the soldiers not just to the Emperor, but to one another. Loyalty is welded into the soul with blood and fire, but this loyalty demands sacrifices, personal desires, ambitions, the fragile light of individual identity. To serve without faltering is to surrender oneself entirely. In the end, the men who obey perfectly are not fully alive. They are perfected instruments, honed, sharpened, and consumed by duty. Greater than war, on Krieg, is a relentless tutor. A single order can place hundreds of men in the path of annihilation. Obedience guarantees cohesion and effectiveness, but it guarantees nothing else. A soldier who follows without hesitation may survive only to witness the death of every comrade, or to live under the haunting memory of orders that led to unnecessary slaughter. Survival is cruel, selective, and indifferent, and yet obedience does not falter. Greater than the human cost is written in the silent moments between battles. Letters never sent, dreams never spoken, laughter extinguished before it can take root. Soldiers pray in secret for the safety of loved ones who may long have perished. They grieve silently for friends and family lost to disease, famine, or the grinding machinery of war. Obedience demands that grief be subordinated to duty. There is no room for mourning when the guns never cease, when the orders never stop, and when the mud never dries. Greater than families, if they remain, are shadows of memory. Men write letters they will never send, or speak prayers that dissolve in smoke and ash. The emotional bonds that sustain ordinary humans are sacrificed to the rhythm of marches, the cadence of drills, the unbroken chain of command. The soldier of Krieg exists for the battlefield, for the Emperor, and for the unit. Everything else is secondary, irrelevant, or forbidden. Greater than physical sacrifice is equally pervasive. Disease, injury, frostbite, and chemical burns are endured without complaint. Limbs may be lost, senses dulled, yet the soldier persists. Medical attention is rationed. Survival is assumed to be secondary to the continuation of the mission. Pain becomes routine. Fatigue becomes indistinguishable from consciousness. Yet through every wound and every injury, obedience remains absolute. The body is a vessel, the soul, a tool, the mind, a weapon honed by suffering. Asterisk, greater than comradeship, mitigates some of this burden, though even this is tempered by the grim reality of attrition. Bonds are formed quickly, tested under fire, and shattered just as swiftly by death. Men learn to love and trust in fleeting moments, knowing full well that any attachment may be severed by the next artillery strike, snipers, bullet, or gas cloud. These fleeting bonds deepen the emotional cost of obedience. To mourn is to obey the natural heart, yet to do so risks distraction, hesitation, and failure. Asterisk, greater than the psychological weight of obedience, is compounded by the ever-present oversight of commissars. These officers enforce discipline with a terrifying blend of authority and lethality. A faltering soldier may face execution, not as punishment, but as purification, an affirmation that obedience is absolute and unyielding. Every glance, every step, every hesitation is scrutinized. The fear of failure, the terror of falling short, becomes as potent a weapon as any rifle or artillery barrage. Asterisk, greater than, despite this, or perhaps because of it, the death corps persevere. Obedience becomes an art form, a discipline of both mind and body. Men learn to suppress instinct and emotion without breaking. They march, they fight, they endure, and they survive. Survival, however, comes at a cost that cannot be measured in medals, honors, or even life itself. Every victory, every advance, every order obeyed extracts its price in memory, in identity, in humanity. Asterisk, greater than obedience, transforms soldiers into a paradox, wholly devoted, yet irreparably altered. Courage is inseparable from fear, discipline inseparable from suffering, faith inseparable from the knowledge that one may die at any moment. The men of Krieg are the ultimate expression of this paradox, perfected through endless attrition, refined in mud and blood, tempered by the constant demand for obedience. Asterisk, greater than, and so. The price of obedience is exacted with every sunrise and every gunfire-laden night. It is inscribed in the weary faces, the hollow eyes, and the silent prayers of soldiers who have seen comrades torn apart, yet continue to march. Rifle in hand, eyes forward, hearts steeled, there is no glory here. There is only duty. There is only survival through unwavering obedience. And there is only the quiet, enduring sorrow of those who have given themselves entirely to the Emperor's service. Asterisk, greater than the men of Krieg march ever onward. Each step a testament to discipline, each act of obedience a silent sacrifice. Yet even as they endure, the machine of war shows no mercy. And the final chapter reminds us that for these soldiers, the war is eternal lending, unyielding, and absolute. The next chapter will reveal the haunting reality of their perpetual battle, the eternal cycle from which no soul escapes. Chapter 7, Eternal War, Asterisk. Krieg does not know rest. Its skies are perpetually choked with smoke, its lands eternally scarred by fire and steel. The clang of manufactorums, the relentless hum of artillery, and the distant cries of the fallen form a ceaseless symphony, a dirge that echoes across the planet's blasted surface. The soldiers of the Death Corps marched through this endless war, each step measured, each order obeyed, each life a tribute to the discipline and endurance demanded by their homeworld. War is not an event here. It is the air they breathe, the soil they march upon, and the rhythm to which their hearts beat. Asterisk, greater than no man remembers a time when Krieg was at peace. The planet's history is written in the mud of trenches, in the ruins of cities, and in the charred remains of forests, long consumed by flame. Generations have been raised in the shadow of artillery towers and the smoke of burning manufactorums. Children learn to salute before they learn to speak. They recite the Emperor's litany before they understand the meaning of play. Life itself is subordinated to war, and death is a constant companion. waiting patiently in the trenches, the barracks, and the endless fields of fire. Greater than the front lines stretch without end, winding like serpents through blasted landscapes where nothing grows, nothing rests, and nothing survives unscarred. Soldiers march through mud thick with the blood of those who fell before them, across cratered fields of shattered iron and shattered men. The roar of artillery is the hymn of Krieg, punctuated by the cries of dying comrades, the whistle of falling shells, and the distant thunder of tanks crossing broken ground. Each day is a repetition of the last, yet every moment carries the weight of imminent death, and the soldiers bear it silently, as they have been trained to do. Greater than in the depths of the trenches, in the ruins of shattered fortresses, and beneath the smoke-choked skies, the men of the Death Korps endure. Their bodies are instruments, their minds tempered steel, their spirits anchored in obedience and faith. Yet even these foundations are tested endlessly. Fatigue gnaws at muscle and mind alike, and the constant presence of death leaves its mark in silent eyes and haunted expressions. Memories of comrades lost, of innocence destroyed, of orders that led to slaughter, are etched into their souls. These memories are carried as burdens, as silent oaths, to continue, to march, and to obey. Greater than war demands sacrifices beyond comprehension. Limbs, blood, sanity, and memory are surrendered in the name of duty. Men march into gas clouds and artillery barrages, not because of hope, not for glory, but because the orders demand it, because the Emperor demands it, because survival is inseparable from obedience. Pain is normalized. Fear is disciplined. Grief is private and unspoken. The Death Korps do not cry, they do not complain, and they do not falter. They endure, for there is no alternative. Greater than above all, Krieg demands eternity. Battles conclude only to be replaced by new fronts, new enemies, new slaughter. Victory is temporary, peace is an illusion, and even retreat is merely a pause before further punishment. Soldiers learn to live without hope of rest, without expectation of reprieve, and without the comfort of respite. Time itself is measured in campaigns, in bombardments, in the steady grind of men, steel, and mud. The planet itself seems to breathe war, inhaling smoke and exhaling fire, feeding upon its children and the endless labor of its soldiers. In this eternal struggle, camaraderie becomes the only solace. Bonds formed under fire, in shared misery, and in mutual obedience, are profound, yet fragile. Men trust one another to carry their burdens, to watch their backs, and to maintain the march, even as the world around them collapses. But these bonds are tested daily, shredded by death and attrition, and renewed in the shared act of enduring the impossible. Friendship is tempered in fire, and loyalty becomes an extension of duty itself. Greater than the psychological toll is immense. Soldiers internalize trauma, suppress emotion, and normalize the omnipresent death that surrounds them. Dreams are haunted by explosions, screams, and visions of comrades dying. Yet in these private nightmares, there is purpose, obedience reinforced, faith renewed, and the unbreakable will of Krieg exemplified. Men understand that the cost of faltering is not only death, but dishonor, and in that knowledge, their minds harden, their focus sharpens, and their endurance deepens. Greater than religion, ritual, and the Emperor's light serve as the final bulwark against despair. Each prayer whispered, each token carried, each sacrament performed, is both comfort and shield. Faith allows soldiers to endure the horrors they witness, to find meaning in the meaningless, and to continue marching even as the world crumbles around them. It is the flame that burns within their hearts, small yet eternal, illuminating the path through smoke, fire, and blood. Greater than machines roar ceaselessly, alongside them the rumble of tanks, the clatter of artillery, the hiss of boilers and servitors forming a mechanical chorus that harmonizes with human endurance. The planet itself seems alive with the sound of war. Every manufactorum, every foundry, every gun emplacement participating in the eternal liturgy of destruction. Soldiers move within this living machine. There lives as expendable cogs in a system that cannot pause, cannot rest, and cannot forgive. Greater than yet, despite the enormity of this cycle, despite the endless carnage, the death corps of Krieg endure. Their obedience is perfect, their courage unwavering, and their resolve absolute. They are instruments of war, perfected through suffering, refined by loss, and hardened by endless trial. Each march, each folly, each sacrifice is both tribute and testament to the Emperor, to Krieg, and to the very principle of enduring the unendurable. Greater than there is no end in sight, no treaty, no armistice, no day when the guns fall silent. War is eternal. Krieg's sons march endlessly, a procession of discipline, stoicism, and sorrow, their shadows stretching across ruined cities and shattered landscapes. The cycle repeats, unbroken and merciless, echoing through the trenches, across the mud-choked plains, and into the iron skies above. Greater than, and in this eternal war, the soldiers of the death corps of Krieg become more than men, they become myth, a living testament to endurance, obedience, and sacrifice. Their lives are consumed by conflict, their memories etched into mud, steel, and ash, their identities forged in the crucible of unending battle. Every heartbeat, every breath, every step is a reaffirmation that on Krieg war is life, and life is war. Greater than the Emperor watches silently. The men march forward, the world burns, and still there is obedience, still there is faith, still there is survival, and still the war continues, eternal, unyielding, and absolute. Greater than, as the sun rises over a horizon filled with smoke. The death corps march on, their silhouettes fading into the iron sky. In their endurance lies both tragedy and awe, reminder that on Krieg, the war is eternal, and the price of survival is infinite.